Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey, guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. Hey, guys, I'm going to take a break from the politics and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I know a lot's going on right now. The whole U.S.-Iran war and, oil's skyrocketing still. It looks like there's possibly peace negotiations going on that might actually solidify. It looks like some ships have been getting let through the straits, and that the U.S. and Iran could be getting close to a deal. Honestly, folks, I think part of the deal is going to end up being U.S. moves out of a bunch of its bases in the Middle East, possibly only being allowed to keep bases in maybe Israel, maybe Saudi Arabia. Who knows? It looks like Saudis are pretty tired of the whole thing. We'll probably be allowing Oman and Iran to run like joint, what's the word? Where they're collecting fees, from every ship, that comes through the straits, and Iran will use that as a way to, rebuild, it's, from the destruction, from the bombing and stuff. And maybe Oman will be able to send some of that money out to the UAE and other countries that were also damaged. And it'll be a way to do the reconciliation and just kind of have the whole world, pay for it through those, letting those ships through, paying a fee for every ship. So I'm guessing something like that's going to happen, and then Iran will probably say, okay, we won't build, nukes. We'll give up some of our material, and we'll let inspectors back in. But then they'll play that whole game where they're hiding it again. And look, folks, I've from the beginning I've said I'm not on Iran's side, and to be honest, I haven't been on our side on this because I don't think we acted upon our own. Security. It was acted upon a foreign nation's security, and I'm against that. But anyways, guys, we'll push that aside. That was just some quick update there. My thoughts on that. Really, what I wanted to talk about is something that nobody really grasps here on Earth. Very few people. I'd say the enlightened ones, Yeshua, Buddha, such as that. Maybe some, high-level yogis that reach, high levels of enlightenment and stuff. And just people that can think outside the box, and can, and people that have had the ability to do controlled out of bodies, and people that have had near-death experiences. And they have kind of an idea about all this. But humans, we think, and I know it's kind of funny I'm even terming it this way, but us humans, we think we're humans. People are very they're very tied into this physical realm. They're very bought into it. They believe it, and they see this as like the true world, right? And everything, when you talk about heaven and all these other like places, it's always like you start here on earth, and then you maybe go to like hell, or you go to heaven, right? Or like some Christians believe there's like a holding area, for those that weren't quite good enough to get into heaven, but they weren't bad enough to go to hell, so they're kind of in like on the other side of a gulf, like a separation from heaven, but they're near it, but they're being retaught. I remember I was brought up believing this, through the deep Bible studies and the teacher I was following and stuff, and that was kind of what they talked about, and I guess in a way that's what the Catholics call like purgatory, right? It's kind of not hell per se, but it's kind of a holding area that you have to kind of level up and learn in before you move on past that part. and you either go to hell or heaven from that point, I guess. So, and of course, all these are just, ideas, man-made ideas, and some of them are based off actual spiritual experiences and stuff. But I want to make something absolutely clear, folks, okay? Absolutely clear. We are not humans, okay? We're not humans. Humans are a construct. The human body is an avatar. It's a vessel. It's a receiver. The brain is a receiver. The brain is not consciousness. And I know that the atheists, they can't wrap their minds around this. If you notice now, folks, the modern day atheist will not even talk about quantum physics at all. And the reason for it is because the reason why they won't talk about quantum physics is because it starts leading people down to the road of understanding that we're actually pure consciousness, and that the body is a receiver just in this dimension, in this frequency like zone, right? And consciousness directly affects the quantum field, which is like the energetic makeup of this realm. And if you really break down that energetic makeup, yes, it's light, yes, it's sound, resonance, yes, it's frequency, but it is really, those are all just forms of consciousness. So this is a realm created of consciousness. It's a simulated, or it's a type of holographic creation or construct, but it's built solely out of consciousness. Like everything that you think you see here on Earth, it's because it's all being, the picture is being painted, or I guess I'm not saying that. Let's put it in video game terms. What you see as reality here on Earth in the third dimension is just a rendering of your head, of data sent to your headset. And what is the headset? Well, it's another name I'd give the body. It's like putting on a VR headset, right? Like, and now the thing is with the human body is an amazing construct as it is a limiter on consciousness. It limits the abilities of pure consciousness. Just like if you're sitting in your living room and you decide to play a VR game and you put the headset on, now all of a sudden your consciousness gets tricked, at least temporarily while you're playing that game. You're able to focus on the game enough that for a short while your consciousness thinks that's reality. But when you're in the VR game, when you're playing the game, you're limited by, your mobility is limited by the preset programming of the video game, of the actions of the controller you're holding, or the motion sticks, or whatever kind of like devices you're using to play the game. And you're also, your vision and your hearing and everything is limited by the quality of the VR headset and its ranges and technology. But once you take the headset off, your consciousness is expanded again. Your abilities are expanded, because you're outside of the game now. You're not plugged into the game, and you're completely, got your full human faculties back, right? Well, folks, I mean, that's literally what the human body is, okay? The human body is a headset for consciousness. It allows consciousness to immerse itself into the third dimension, into this lower dimension. And why is that? Well, because consciousness comes from a higher dimension. It vibrates at a higher level, at a level that doesn't work here on Earth. It would, a lot of times when you're vibrating at that consciousness, you would wink out of existence in this consciousness because it's too high of a band, at least for the human body to perceive. So people think you disappeared, right? But no, you were able to vibrate at a higher frequency that's outside of the frequency bands of what the human body can collect as data to render its perceptions. So it's interesting to note that when people have OBEs or NDEs, sometimes even people that are really good at controlling lucid dreaming and, able to wake up in the dream, know it's a dream, and, they become fully aware that they're in a dream. And I've done that a few times, and that is some of the most memorable experiences I've ever had in the dream state. Because when you're dreaming, folks, your consciousness is leaving your body. You're experiencing astral planes, some of them ones that your own consciousness creates, some of them are shared creations, and we all are doing OBEs all the time. It's just most of us don't understand what dreams really are and stuff, and most of us are are unaware, when they're in the dream, that they're in a dream. It's just they're kind of floating along and just experiencing it. It's very rare that you realize that you're in a dream. Sometimes it's like a certain thing that triggers you, like the way somebody looks or something just isn't right, and that, hey, this can't be real. And then once you think that, all of a sudden you become self-aware in the dream. You're like, oh my God, this is a dream. And then you become powerful in the dream, because now you can actually manipulate the dream. You can control those around you in the dream. It's a pretty interesting experience. But it is well known and explained by people that have NDEs that when they pop out of the body, they start out, they're floating above the body, and they have the ability to go through walls. They can move with just their thoughts. And they notice too that their vision is way more like advanced. Like they have 360 degree vision, and they have like vision that can be microscopic or like a telescopic, right? Like they can zoom in, or they can see super far distances in clarity and detail. And the reason for that, folks, is because the consciousness is no longer experiencing the third dimension through the rendering of the headset, which is the human body, the vessel. Now they're seeing the third dimension, with their pure consciousness, with their pure spiritual ability. And I always find that fascinating, and I find that is a common theme with people that have NDEs, because it's one of the first things they always talk about. Like, wow, my vision was insane, and there's been case studies, people too, of people that are blind, born blind, and on Earth, that when they have an NDE, they have pure vision. So, I think we're hammering this home, right? Okay, look, when your consciousness is free of the body, it's just like when you're on you're sitting on your sofa and you take the VR headset off. You're taking off the body. And it's interesting to note too, folks, that people disassociate with the body when that happens. When they see the body sitting there or laying there on the ground, and like doctors are working on it, or EMTs or whatever, say it's a car crash, they say that they look at the body and it's like they know that was the body they were in, that they say like, well, that's me, I guess, but they say they don't feel a connection to it. It's like if you took off your clothes, you get home from a hot day, you strip your clothes off, you have your like work clothes, like have to wear like a button-up shirt and slacks, and you're all hot, it's like 90 degrees outside. You walk through the damn door and you strip down to your boxers, right? Or women, I know you guys, right? You strip that bra off first thing you do when you walk through that front door. Some women, right? Let the ladies hang and air out, right? Well, they say like then when you throw the clothes on the ground, it's not like you're like, oh my God, were those my clothes? You're just like indifferent to it. Well, that's how these people view the body. It's like just like it was a garment, like it's like oh. Wow, so I'm not the body, then they start thinking. Then that's typically when they head up to the darkness, or they find themselves in the velvety blackness, which is the womb, right, folks? It's the womb space. It's not evil. It's not hell. It's not a bad place. But I think some people that have been programmed their whole lives, or that are atheists, when they cross over, they don't know, what's going on, so they freak out. They think they're in hell, or they think that they're in the grave. It's what the blackness is, and but no, it's the womb. You're going through the reverse process of what it takes to incarnate onto Earth, right? The spark of divinity enters the sperm and the egg, right, at conception, and it waits there in the womb, the darkness, the mother's belly, until it heads to the light through the tunnel, through the birth canal. Well, you go through that process when you pop out of your body, from an NDE. You go into that womb of the universe, they call it, and then typically there's a 3-day cleansing process, and part of that is you head to the light, you meet up with guides, family members, Yeshua, Buddha, who knows, whatever you believe in, what makes you most comfortable, animals that pets you had, whatever, a council of elders, sometimes people recollect. But then you go through your life review, and the whole time you're shedding off energy. A lot of people, folks that come back from NDEs and that are given the choice that they can come back, or they're kind of forced to come back because they're still they haven't fulfilled their soul contract that they signed and wrote up before they incarnated on Earth. A lot of times they'll have chronic diseases or chronic injuries, here on Earth, or they'll be, or messed up from whatever gave them the OBE, right, or the NDE, car accident, right, maybe punctured lung or whatever. Well, what's peculiar too is a lot of times when they are in that process of that, before they get sent back, they get healed. So that when they come back into the body, things that they had are gone, or they go through a rapid healing process where that, maybe they had a chronic disease or something, but when they come back to their body, for a so-called, second life, right, almost, a lot of times those chronic diseases and stuff will go away quickly, because they were going through the cleansing process in the higher realms, and disease and all that stuff is all part of the third dimension. It cannot survive in the higher dimensions. It's at a higher vibration. That's all low vibration stuff, disease, like dis-ease, dis-ease, get it? Anyways, or they'll have a super fast, rapid recovery from whatever they almost died from, right? Maybe they had the C word, right? And then after they come back from the NDE, all of a sudden it shrinks really fast and disappears, or their body heals up from like trauma stuff from a car accident, really like so fast that the doctors, it kind of scares them, it freaks them out, A lot of that stuff's pretty normal with NDEs. So what am I trying to tell you here, folks? Okay? Well, I've been listening a lot to the Monroe Institute and Robert Monroe's tapes of his experiences, and like Tom Campbell and other people that were part of his team that were doing controlled out-of-body experiences. And like the CIA already declassified all this as being real, folks, okay? Project Stargate, there were some other projects too, but they were able to, they figured out that consciousness could leave the human body, and it could astral project, or it could explore different dimensions and different realms and stuff. Of course, the government, they just wanted to use this to spy on the Russians and stuff, right? Like they wanted to utilize these gifts that humanity truly has, that the consciousness has, to further war games and stuff like that, for the third dimension. They didn't really give a shit about what this could do for humanity, about wakening up humanity to the fact that we are not humans, that we are consciousness, pure consciousness. And maybe that's why a lot of these people in the government treat humans like we are just sheep or cattle, or that could just be tossed away, and that we don't deserve like any kind of rights anymore. They don't have to follow the Constitution. They can lie, they can cheat, they can steal, they can do whatever they want, because we're just pure consciousness and we're just playing a game. And so they're not harming us really. And that's kind of, I think, how they see it. You know, I think a lot of these people, these cultic like practices, have been teaching these truths for a long time. They manipulate humanity for their ends, and they don't feel bad about it because they see it as like, well, this is just a type of game. That's why the Masons kind of depict the world, you know, through symbology as a game board, a black and white polarity, duality game board. And a lot of these, you know, like the Luciferians and a lot of these occultic groups, they're not real worried about how they treat humanity and how they use and abuse people, because all they see it as is that this is all a pure consciousness realm. And look, if you get tricked, that's your fault. You're pure consciousness. You should be able to see through the lies and all that. And if you're so wrapped up in the third dimension that you don't understand these things, well, that's your fault, not theirs. And they'll even put it in front of your face in movies and in books and, you know, television and everything, even releasing these documents. Like, they'll even later say, like, show you, like, look, yeah, okay, here you go. Here's Project Stargate. How many are you going to read these declassified files, and how many are you going to understand what it's saying? We just literally told you this is a pure consciousness realm. Everything is consciousness. There is no physical reality. And consciousness can interact with the quantum field. I mean, literally, consciousness can leave the body and explore astral realms and explore other physical locations on Earth even. They're literally telling you all this, and yet they put it in your face. They hand you the documents, and how many people read it and even understand what they're talking about or care? Because most people are wrapped up in a religious dogma view on what the afterlife is and what this realm is, and they don't want their views to be shaken. They don't want to understand that, look, Yeshua was trying to teach you that, you know, not to worship him as God. He was trying to teach you, hey, brothers and sisters, I'm here to try to wake you up that you're God. You're one with the Father. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is within. You don't need to go to a temple to pray to the Creator. You're one with the Creator. Don't you get it? All consciousness emanates from the source of creation. And we are all fractals of that source. And when Jesus was teaching about the 3-day resurrection, through his 3-day resurrection, you ever notice some folks? It wasn't about resurrecting the human body, folks. It was about resurrecting back into the light body, into the pure consciousness state, leaving the human body the limiter and being unlimited outside of the body. And yes, it looked like he had a physical body, but yet it wasn't quite like a physical body when he's shown himself back to what was the Marys, right? And some of his other, followers. Because he was trying to show them, look, here I am. Look, I'm in my spiritual form, my pure light form. And he was trying to wake them up to this. And that 3-day process of cleansing before you are allowed back, free roam back into the higher dimensions, right? Into these other constructs. So it's really interesting stuff, folks. But really what I want to just kind of finish this all off is just the simple teaching that you are not a human, okay? You're not a human at all. That you are a pure consciousness being. You're immortal. The only hell there is the hell that people are programmed to believe in hell. And when they don't understand that, when they leave the human body, they're pure manifestors in the higher dimensions. And even outside of the the third dimensional quantum field, when you're out of the body, you've got your full spiritual abilities back. You get downloads of information. You basically can access all the information of the universe. You got the abilities to manifest anything you want. I mean, you can even manifest hell. If you're expecting to go to purgatory, you're gonna go to purgatory, folks. Okay. And if you cry out to God and you ask, Archangel Michael to come save you and pull you out of that purgatory or hell you created, then he'll come and pull you out. Because in that realm, folks, you have the power to, you're you're a son or daughter. Well, we're basically all the sons and daughters of God, but not really sons and daughters. We're consciousness fractals of God. So, you can do as the Father can. I mean, you're a co-creator with Source. You're collecting data for that creator of all, for that source of all creation. And so that's our true realm. That's really what we are, folks. We are immortal consciousness beings, and the human body is not your true estate. Okay, and I think Yeshua made that quite clear when he talked about how his father has a house with, or a mansion with many rooms. Yeah, all the dimensions, folks. You can in When you're outside of the physical body, when after you've gone through that 3-day process and you've completely cut off ties to the human body, you're not coming back, and your spirit's been cleansed. You've gone through the resurrection process. You can create your own realms in the higher dimensions. You can create your own worlds, all that. But a lot of people, because they got used to being a human, what I thought it was interesting that Robert Monroe talks about is like he'd go to certain places and there would be people that have like little towns set up, or like little mountain towns and stuff, and they'd have little houses and streets, and it was like all like a simulated construct, but it was like people were so used to being humans that they started constructing a lot of what they experienced here in the higher dimensions, except you're using consciousness to build, not tools and stuff, to manipulate more denser matter like we do here. But it was interesting because they like that, having neighbors and kind of living that like life, oh, I'm living in the mountains. But what's awesome about that, folks? You don't have to work. Yeah, Earth is a slave world in a way too. To come to Earth, I think part of the payment is you have to give energy. You have to give energy. That's your payment to be here on Earth. And when you're on Earth, you got to play by the rules of Earth. And of course, this Earth has been kind of turned into a prison planet of sorts. So used to be the Garden of Eden. It got corrupted. This realm did, because spirits got intoxicated with duality in the lower dimensions. And why is that? Well, because spirits got tired of the higher dimensions where everything's all pure light and pure good and pure manifestation. They wanted to go play a game where they were limited on their abilities. And that's why you're here, folks. You chose to come here. I chose to. As much as I rail against this realm, I have to admit I chose to come here. So anyways, guys, I hope you liked that talk. We needed to take a break. Yeah, I did go over a little bit of politics at the very beginning, but that's because those are some important things that people are worried about. Obviously not in detail we went, but just enough, cursory overview. But anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. If you're interested in purchasing to help support the page and to help yourself, one of my custom-made purple rhodolite garnet, rare garnet necklaces, hit me up in Messenger on Facebook, or even in the comments under the video, and I'll let you know about the price and what that looks like. I'm probably just gonna do like the free shipping and handling with the price, just to make it simple for people, and it's a way to help. You can help support me in the work I do, and allow me to have more free time to do more videos and stuff, because I am strapped at work, and I'm as strapped as all of you guys are. And look, I'm not asking. Look, if you're strapped like me, don't unless you really would like to amplify your prayers, your meditation and all that. The purple garnets will do that, because they act as a bridge in the gem world and the crystal world between the heart and the crown chakra. So they're very powerful. It is a very powerful talisman. I mean, if you've got the means, and you want to help me out, and you want to get yourself something that will help you out, then hit me up. But if you're barely making it, I'd say you probably just need to keep focusing on just getting by, right, folks? Because a lot of us are having to do that right now. And the way you can support me at that point, just share and like videos and comment. And that's it. I appreciate you guys. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and I will talk to you later.